I cannot remember a transfer that City have missed out on that has divided City fans as much as this. Florian Wirtz is looking like he's going to be heading to the Premier League, but not to Manchester City. Let's speak about it. If you are new around here to the City Ramble, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. We've got daily podcasts, but if you are new to the YouTube, we'll be looking to up the ante, bring plenty of content. So yeah, hit the subscribe button. The bottom line is Florian Wirtz to the Premier League, but to Liverpool instead. Is that as big of a disaster for City as some people are making out? Because it does feel like this one is being fought at either ends of the spectrum. In one part, you've got people saying it doesn't matter if he doesn't want City, that's fine, we'll move on, we'll get somebody else. In the other side, you've got people suggesting that it is a disaster, that City needed him to replace Kevin De Bruyne. I think it's important to make out that with he would have been the Kevin De Bruyne replacement, but it's impossible to replicate. And those two things are completely different. To be honest, I'm in the middle. I am slap bang in the middle. I think it's one thing for City to lose out to Florian Wirtz if he was going to go to Bayern Munich, for example, because they're the biggest club in Germany. He's the best young German talent. He'd be the face of Bayern Munich for however many years. That's fine. He'd be staying in Germany, whatever. The fact he apparently is willing to leave the Bundesliga to come to the Premier League, but it not be City when City have that glaring hole in their squad, especially considering Kevin De Bruyne is leaving. I mean, you couldn't think of a more perfect replacement to come in and try and fill the shoes. Again, you can't replicate that. I think that is a bit of a miss for City, I've got to be honest, because you look at the finances involved. Okay, yes, you say the transfer fee might be around 120 million, something like that. The wages, 200 grand a week, whatever. That's big, but is it astronomical when you consider the sort of talent you're getting? I just don't think it is. So, whatever the reason, he said no to City. Does he feel like Liverpool have got a better chance at long-term success? Does he look at the managerial situation at City, for example, with Guardiola seemingly coming towards the end of his City career? We have to mention 115 as well. Is that playing a part? I don't think it is as big a part as people are making out, because you look at Marmoush, for example, Kusanov, possibly Tijani Reinders, Morgan Gibbs White. City's still signing top players. It's just that elite level talent that it seems to have maybe impacted a little bit. However, being said, I do think the reaction, the idea that you have to completely write City off next season just because they're missing out on Florian Wirtz is a bit over the top, because City have missed out on bigger transfer targets, better players in the past, and they've gone on to win league titles. Harry Kane springs to mind. It felt like do or die for City in that summer. They won the league that year playing a false nine. The season later, they signed Erling Haaland from Borussia Dortmund. I can think of Virgil van Dijk, for example, who obviously chose Liverpool ahead of City. They go and get Laporte in the January transfer window a year later. So there are situations where City have missed out on their number one, or seemingly at the time their number one transfer target, and they've gone on to be okay. However, it does bring me back to that original point. The fact it is Liverpool is a bit concerning, because they have just gone on and won the league title at a canter. Personally, I don't think the league was at the strongest point this season. Arsenal should have, in my opinion, won that league pretty simply, or at least they should have challenged Liverpool a lot more. And in my opinion, they should have got the better of them. Being said, the best place to strengthen is when you're on top, and that is what Liverpool are doing. And to be fair, that's maybe, if you've got to look at the Jurgen Klopp teams over the years, that's maybe where they went wrong in some aspects. The fact that they were challenging City, they were getting 90 odd points consistently, but you look at the transfer dealings that they did, how often were they bringing in the top talent, the most sought after name in European football? Very rarely. Virgil van Dijk is really the only one I can think of. So yeah, I think Liverpool are certainly taking themselves to another level by signing Florian Wirtz. The issue for City is now, how do they go about that, getting around it, and making sure that it isn't going to be this time next year. We're looking back on the season. Florian Wirtz had a wonderful debut campaign in England, and City going, "Oh God, wouldn't it have been amazing if we'd have just had the creative maestro Florian Wirtz in that midfield?" I don't know. Like I said, I totally understand both parts of this debate, because you want to see your club sign the best talent available, and traditionally speaking, City have had a decent track record, especially going back 10 years or so when the likes of Aguero, David Silva, Yaya Toure would have had quote unquote bigger clubs coming after them, but they had the project to sell them. That was what enticed players to come to City. And then you get into the Guardiola era, obviously that ramps up a little bit. So I understand why people are sat there with a few concerns. The fact that City went after Wirtz, they seemingly rolled the red carpet out. They said that he was the number one target. There was talk of, James McAtee, for example, being involved in a deal. And when you start putting forward academy products, people are going to be expecting it, because you don't necessarily want to see those players just leave on a whim. You want them to sort of, if they're going to leave, you want it to be for good reason. And again, where does City go from here? Which is the question I think a lot of people have had for a long time. And is it a financial aspect? I have my doubts personally. I said it before. You look at the numbers involved. It's expensive, but it's not that expensive. Somebody did mention, by the way, on the City Ramble Discord, which if you aren't involved in and you are on Discord, make sure to get involved. The link is in the description as well. That in isolation, the finances might not look a lot, but when you consider the amount of surgery this squad is going to need in the summer, maybe that's where City see it as not value for money. You're talking at least one fullback, maybe two, probably two midfielders, maybe even a winger. So that is, the best part of £300 million in transfer fees alone, let alone signing on bonuses, wages, etc. That's going to go out in this summer transfer window. But then again, you can see the cycle that my brain is going on with this one, because I do think it is a missed opportunity for City. When you think of waving goodbye to Kevin De Bruyne, that decision was made by the club not to offer him a new contract. By all accounts, they didn't even enter negotiations. It was just Kev, you're not getting a new deal. That's that. No real reason or no real time to discuss whether or not he wanted to drop down his wages, whatever. And you look at the way City have been performing in the last few months, you would probably say he is still City's best creative threat, which when you're letting him walk out the door on a free transfer, yes, obviously his powers are not nowhere near as good as they once were. That is still a little bit of a concern, especially if you sort of go into next season without adding in that department. I will say, just to end the video before we call it a day, Phil Foden plays a massive part in this, because going back to that opposite end of the spectrum where I'm on the side of it doesn't matter, City have missed out on targets in the past and they've been fine. If Phil Foden was coming back from the season he had last year, where he's just got, 25 goals and assists in the Premier League, whatever the number was, would people feel as disappointed on missing out on Florian Wirtz? I think the answer would be no. Would City even be in the conversation for Florian Wirtz if Phil Foden had just had that season? That's one to think about. But again, I'm hopping back over to this side because I do think it is a missed opportunity for City. I think it's a bit of a blow if you're looking at maybe City going on and challenge for the Premier League title next season. Anytime you go into a transfer battle against a direct rival and miss out, it is a loss. Let's face it, it is a loss in that department. Again, I can see this side of the debate, so you can see why, for me anyway, it has been sort of a really weird 24, 48 hours trying to make sense of this, because I've got some people telling me it's the end of the world. I've got some people telling me it doesn't matter, it's going to be fine. I find myself somewhere in the middle. But do let me know in the comment section what you think about the news that Florian Wirtz is looking like he's coming to the Premier League. Unfortunately for City, it isn't going to be in the sky blue. It isn't going to be at the Etihad Stadium. It isn't going to be under Pep Guardiola. Instead, it's going to be an hour down the road at Anfield, with Liverpool looking like they have secured his signature. Do let me know in the comments what you think about that. As always, hit subscribe. And if you want more City Ramble content, you can listen to my waffling and plenty of others wherever you get your podcasts from. It is daily Manchester City podcast, Monday through Friday during the regular season. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of the lovely places. Make sure to give us a listen. Until next time, though, it's been a pleasure, and we will see you later.